सम्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Lord Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Welcome, dear devotees. So, are you ready to come with the scratch pad, whatever you have, and tell me how are you doing on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 means I'd rather be somewhere else. 10 means I don't want it to stop till midnight, this assembly. So let me know how you are feeling today. And I see some responses. Ooh, somebody crossed the line, went over to 12. Well, Sadhana Mataji and Vaishana together make it a 20, which is good. Simi says 10. Sutapa is an 8. Fantastic. And Sukomal Shraddha-devi Dasi is also a 10. So this is fantastic news. And so we will get started, continuing on with chapter number 3 of Bhagavad Gita, which is Karma Yoga. And it started with Krishna, Arjuna asking, some questions because he's very, very confused. And then Krishna answered and told him last time that there are 2 types of people who try to be self-realized. And one of them, some do it through Sankhya Yoga, the other Jnanis, and the others who try that through Buddhi Yoga. Okay, so that was 3.3. And we are going to continue with 3.4. And let me see if I'm sharing that. So I will start sharing it with you all. And we'll get going on that. Okay. So participants, I can close this and I can keep your chat window over here so that I can see if you're chatting. And let's see here. How do I share my screen now? Okay, so here we go. Sharing the screen, please tell me if you're able to see Bhagavad Gita. Any way, shape, or form. Are you able to do that? Type a yes or a thumbs up. I think Vindavali Mataji is giving me a thumbs up, so I'm assuming that you're able to see that. Okay, very, very well. So let's just go and I'm going to close the chat also. Go into verse number 4. I'm starting with Sanskrit here. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, Na karmanam anarambhan neshkarmyam purushosnute nacha sanyasanadiva siddhim samadhi gacchati. Na karmanam anarambhan neshkarmyam purushosnute nacha sanyasanadiva siddhim samadhi gacchati. And this is a very, very important verse, very, very powerful verse, and has got lots of powerful information inside it. And the synonyms, lot of new words for us to memorize and stay with. Okay, so we'll go into the synonyms. Na means not, that's not easy, that's an easy one. Karmanam, so here it says karmanam is prescribed duties. Anarambhat, by non-performance. So what does aram mean in Hindi? Anybody wants to make guesses? What does aram mean in Hindi? And let's see, what are you telling me here? Okay, start. Yes. Right, so anarambha. Right? So aram and then ana means the opposite. So one is to start and arambha means not to start it. Right? So if you're not starting anything, means you're not doing anything. And so that is also translated here as non-performance or non-activity or inactivity. Anarambhat, right? Sounds like a musical word, beautiful to hear, but it means non-performance. Nashkarmyam. Nashkarmyam is again a new word that we are coming across now in Bhagavad Gita for the first time. Nashkarmyam, freedom from reaction. So that is another amazing word, right? Nashkarmyam. Purushaha, easy one, a man. Ashnute means achieves. Na means nor. Cha means also. Again, those are not new ones for us. Sannyasanat. Okay, we can guess that one by renunciation. Sannyas is renunciation. So sannyasanat becomes by renunciation. Eva, simply. Usually Eva translates to many different meanings, but here it is simply. Siddhim is success. And samadhi gacchati is attains. Okay. So let's look at and focus on the words a little bit more. Anarambhat means by non-performance. Nashkarmyam is freedom from reaction. Ashnute means achieves. Sannyasanat is by renunciation. Siddhim is success. Samadhi gacchati means to attain. So what is Sanskrit for non-performance? Can you write and tell me? What is the Sanskrit for anarambhats? And then words to those of you watching us on Facebook. Anarambhat means, what is the meaning of anarambhat, Satyapa? Anarambhat means non-performance. Okay, very good. Should we go over to the next one? Non-performance. Okay. All right. Anarambhat means non-performance. Very good, right? So now it is easy. Aram means to start, and anarambhat, not even starting it. Non-performance. And then what is by renunciation? What would you say that in Sanskrit? By renunciation. By renunciation. Sukumal Radhe was the first to go with the buzzer round and say Sannyasanat, followed by Sutapa Sannyasanat. All right. And if there is success, what do you call that? Siddhim is success. Yes, Siddhim is success. And Samadhi Gacchati means, what does Samadhi Gacchati mean? Samadhi Gacchati. So now let's go and look at the verse again. Na karmanam anarambhan nashkarmyam purushosnute na cha sannyasanaadiva siddhim samadhi gacchati. And translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Perfection is siddhi. So not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction. And freedom from reaction was nashkarmyam, is freedom from reaction. So not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Very powerful statement by Bhagavad. The renounced order of life can be accepted when one is purified by the discharge of the prescribed forms of duties, which are laid down just to purify the hearts of materialistic men. So prescribed forms of duties will depend on two things. It will depend on your varna, whether you are a brahmachari, whether you are a, brahmana, vaishya, kshatriya, or shudra, right, or lower than that. And then also depends on your ashram, and which is whether you are a brahmachari, whether you are a grihastha, whether you are vanaprastha, whether you are a sannyasi, you'll have a different set of prescribed duties to be done, right? So it's saying that these prescribed duties are meant to purify the hearts. Without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life, sannyas. This is very, very important, right? We just can't abruptly jump and take sannyas without being ready for it. And also, by the way, in Kali Yuga, it is not a recommended thing for everybody to do. According to the empirical philosophers are the Sankhya yogis. According to the empirical philosophers, simply by adopting sannyas or retiring from the fruitive activities, one at once becomes as good as Narayana. But Lord Krishna does not approve of this principle, right? So just by becoming, you take sannyas and you become Narayana Bhava, doesn't happen. Right? Without purification of heart, sannyas, very, very important. Without purification of heart, sannyas is simply a disturbance to the social order. And we know the story of Indra when Prithu Maharaj was performing Ashwamedha Yajna, and he was scared that, as soon as he does 100 Ashwamedha Yajnas, he gets entitled to become Indra. And so he didn't like it. And so when he had just completed, when Prithu Maharaj has completed 99 Ashwamedha Yajnas and he was doing the 100th one, Indra came disguised as a sannyasi and stole the horse away, right? And he did it multiple times. And actually, he was not a sannyasi from heart. He had come as a disguise, and you know what a disturbance he created there in the yajna. So Prabhupada is telling us the same thing that he's saying in the purports. Srila Prabhupada's purports are fantastic. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So he's telling us there that, if you just, without purification of heart, sannyas is simply a disturbance to the social order. On the other hand, if one takes, right, if someone takes to the transcendental service of the Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whatever he may be able to advance in the cause is accepted by the Lord Buddhi Yoga. And then this gives them the famous verse that we also did last time, Swalpam apiyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhaya. Even a slight performance of such a principle enables one to overcome great difficulties. Om Tat Sat. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so take out your sketch pads and tell me, what are some of the words that come to your mind, that struck your mind, that let's see, any concept, anything that came to mind here. Purification, says Anurima Mataji, very good. All right, prescribed duties, all right. Buddhi Yoga, says Sukumara Mataji. Freedom from reactions, very good. And freedom from reactions was Nashkarmyam, right? Okay. Recommended for this age. Sannyas is not recommended for this age. Okay. Freedom from reactions. Very good. Right. Okay. So we'll take. We will focus on the word which is Nashkarmyam. Right. What does Nashkarmyam mean? Freedom from reaction. Now Newton's third law says for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So we live in a world where whatever action you do, you have got a reaction to that, right? But then there is a state which is called Nashkarmyam, freedom from reaction. Now, here in this material world, it is described in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Purushottam Yoga chapter, right? Where described as Urdhamulam Adha Shakham. So Urdhamulam, the roots are upward and the shakhas are down. It's describing the banyan tree of this human society or this material world. This material world, not human society. And so it says, Urdhamulam adhashakham ashwatham prahuravyayam, right? So this banyan tree is avyayam, goes on and is inexhaustible. Nobody knows the beginning and the end. So Urdhamulam adhashakam ashwatham prahuravyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam vedasa vedavid. This says that the hymns of the Vedas are the leaves. Right? Chandami yasya parnani yastam vedasa vedas. One who understands that this is what the material world is actually a knowledgeable person. Adhaschordam prusparistastasya shakha guna pravidda vishaya pravalaha. So then he says that, its limbs, its twigs and branches extend. Guna, the three material modes of material nature. Adhasya mulani anusantatani karmanubandhini manushya loke. So this is very important. Adhasya mulani, mul means the roots. So then it has got many, many roots. And what type of roots has a banyan tree got? It has got roots in both the directions. Even if you look at a banyan tree here, it has got roots that go down and it has got roots that come out from the branches, right? So these roots, adasya mulani anusantatani karmani bandhini manushya loke. So it is these roots that tie you up in the knot of these roots are like the karmani bandhini. So just as, you have a tree, right? So tell me, which part of the tree anchors the tree? When a wind comes, the tree doesn't start to fly, right? So which part of the tree anchors it? Simi Mataji says roots, and exactly right, right? So the roots will anchor you. Similarly, in this material world, this root, this karmani, this karma bandhan is like just as the roots, they keep the tree rooted to wherever it is and anchored to wherever it is. Similarly, this karma bandhan anchors all of us into this material world, right? Because of this karma bandhan pass, also people say it's like a network, right? You do some good and you have to come back here to enjoy the good. You do some bad and you have to come back here to enjoy the bad. And this way you keep on roaming, right? Up and down is this material world. Brahmande Brahmite Kaun Bhagyavan Jeev. Guru Krishna Pasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. So unless you don't get the mercy of the spiritual master and the bhakti, the seed of bhakti doesn't rise in your heart, then you will not get out of this attachment, of this entanglement, right? Later on, it will say asanga shastrena dhrinena chitva. Later on, it will say that asanga, don't associate with material things, right? In a material way, with the sense of enjoying it. So don't do it. So if you don't associate with it in that way, then only you'll be able to come out of this karma bandha. Otherwise, karmani bandhini manushya loke. Right? The human beings who are the ones who suffer the karmas or enjoy the karmas, they will stay here forever. Okay. So this root is very, very important. Okay. So now the word that we are looking is neshkarmyam. We are saying freedom. I want freedom from this karma bandhan, right? And so as long as we are doing any work with the intention of enjoying the results of that work, if that is what my intention is, then that karma, that action that you do is known as sakam karma. Sakam, I was focused on the result for myself. For my own enjoyment, I wanted that, sakam karma. So as long as you're doing sakam karma, you'll continue to be bound. Because while you're doing some actions for your own sense enjoyment, you might either do some good things or you might do some bad things. And both of them are going to tie you together here, right? But we have to remember that we need to get out of that, right? We have to get out of that. Otherwise, we can just go like a Ferris wheel, up and down, up and down, up and down, right? Now, there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam where Shraddha-devi is teaching his sons. And there in that verse, he says, Parabhavastabo abodha jato yavan jigyasat atma tattvam yavat kriya tavadidam manove karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. Karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. So this is very important. The fact that the word karmatmaka yena sharira bandha. Bandha again is a knot, entwinement, right? Entanglement. So this was actually saying, Shraddha-devi is telling his 100 sons, and he's saying that, as long as a person does not inquire about the spiritual values that are there in this life, then you are parabhava. You are defeated. You got a human body. Human body means athato brahma jigyasa. And you did not do that. You did not go after the spiritual inquiry. Instead, you remained and wanted to remain entangled foolishly in this material world. Then you will be subjected to the miseries that will arise from your pursuit of happiness in this material world. Now, very important thing that this verse is saying is that whether your actions are sinful, right? Whether you're doing sinful activities or you're doing pious activities. And that's why sometimes people say, what's wrong with building hospitals? No, there's nothing wrong with building hospitals. The government also builds hospitals, right? The thing is that if you do good things or you do bad things, either ways, you are in karma bandhan, right? So you won't become nashikarmyam. That word won't apply to you, right? So then it says karmatmakam. Karmatmakam means one whose mind is engaged in these kinds of activities, and I want to do something and I want to enjoy, right? So your mind becomes colored by fruitive activities. It's no longer pure. So the color means, some impurity there. So that is the kind of mind that you have. And karmatmakam yena sharira bandha, which means that as long as your consciousness is colored with desires to enjoy in this material world, sharira bandha means you have to accept a material body. You have to get a material body like that. So doing good. So Arjun was thinking, right? And what was Arjun thinking? Well, let's see. What was Arjun thinking? He expressed his thoughts in the beginning. And in verse number 1, he asked 2 questions, right? Verse number 1 and verse number 2. And so there'll be a lot of going back and forth here in this, because Arjuna has asked some very powerful questions and Krishna is answering those questions down the line. And we'll have to go back. And last time that I had the class, I'd also mentioned that sometimes we just ask that, okay, this and that, and you said this and you said that, and please tell me what is the ultimate thing for me. And then we are in that, we get tempted to just tell them what is to be done. But Krishna is not doing that. Krishna is answering some, going back. Okay, that was the first question. Let me tell you, answer your first question more elaborately. We'll take the second question. So he'll go back and forth like that, right? So let's go back first and see what had Arjuna asked in verse number 1. And let's see, chapter 3, verse number 1. Does anybody remember what he had asked? So he says, Arjuna vacha jyayasi cheta karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi Keshava. So he said, oh Keshava, why do you want me to engage in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence of Buddhi Yoga is better than fruitive work, right? That was a question Arjuna asked. And so what is happening behind the scenes in Arjun's mind? What exactly is Arjuna thinking, right? So, you have a good intention, you will do a good activity, you will get good karma, right? So good intention will lead to good acts and lead to good karma. Now, will you help me fill in the blanks? Bad intention will lead to what kind of activity? Type it out for me. Bad intention will lead to what kind of act of karma? Here's the clue. Good intention gives good act. And good act leads to good karma. So if we have bad intention, then it will lead to what kind of an act? And Sukumal Radhe and Simi Mataji and Sukumal Radhe Mataji say that it is bad, and that is the right answer. Bad intention will lead to bad activity or bad act, right? And a bad act is going to lead to what kind of karma? What kind of a karmic reaction are you going to get? Bad intention, bad act. What kind of a karma are you going to get? Bad. So you got it? Okay, one more time. A good intention will lead to what act? Good intention will lead to what kind of an act? Good act. And good act will get you good karma, right? Now, tell me this. No intention will lead to, there is no intention. Good intention leads to good act. Bad intention leads to bad act. So no intention will lead to, if there is no intention, it will lead to, answer me in act, in terms of act. So good act, bad act, or no act, right? You had no intention, so you will not do anything, right? No act. All right. So good act leads to good karma. Bad act leads to bad karma. So no act will lead to, good act leads to good karma. Bad act leads to bad karma. So no act will lead to no karma, says Sutapa Mataji, Sadhana Mataji, Sukumal Radhe Mataji. Fantastic, right? So this is what our dear Arjun is thinking. If good karma is going to lead to good, bad karma is going to lead to bad, I'm not going to do anything. No karma. So why are you asking me to engage in this ghastly warfare? If Buddhi Yoga is much better, why should I go and fight? I won't do anything. Right? Because you said Buddhi Yoga is better. So he's just saying that I won't fight. So that the seed is in his heart that, I will not fight. Why are you asking me to fight? Because he thinks that, that I'm not, I will not do that, right? And then now let's go back a little bit and see how karma acts. Now let's pick up a verse from Bhagavad Gita to understand that. And I wish I should share the screen with you all. Desktop number 2, sharing. And it should be Bhagavad Gita, verse 4.17, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, right. So it says, Karmono hi api bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha, akarmanascha bodhavyam gahna karmano gatihi. And translation, Prabhupada says, the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Inaction. Now, if you remember when we were doing Brahma Samhita several months ago, we were talking about Ishvara Sarva Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karan Karanam, right? So we said Karana Karanam. So we said he's the cause of everything. And then we went into what exactly is a cause, and we talked about different types of causes, right? And so the first and the most easy thing to understand is the material cause. And material cause basically means that if you have a pen, then the material cause of this pen would be the plastic that is made, the ink that is inside, the little metallic thing which is here. Obviously, there's some spring in this pen. So all that is the material cause, right? So the plastic, the metal, and the ink, at the minimum, is the material cause for the pen. But then plastic and material and ink just don't by themselves become a pen. Something has to happen to that, right? And so the craftsman or the machine who has created this becomes the what is known as the efficient cause, right? Similarly, when you are in your kitchen and you're making chapatis, then you are the efficient cause because you're rolling the chapatis. But the material cause is the flour, right? That you and the water that you add to it. So there's efficient cause, and then there is a material cause, right? Now there's also a third cause, and which is known as an indirect cause. And this is very, very important to understand. Like the words that I said, that it said that it is very difficult, right? Akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. To understand what the intricacies of karma are very, very difficult. And Arjuna has made it very simple, right? Good intention, good act, good karma. Bad intention, bad act, bad karma. No intention, no act, no karma. I'll never karma. And this is how I will go and I will become what is known as Nash Karmayam. Nash Karmayam is free from freedom of reaction. I won't suffer any reaction. Okay. Now let's look at our scriptures and see some situations, and let's see what happened in those cases. Okay? So the Srimad Bhagavatam begins. The Srimad Bhagavatam in the beginning talks about Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj was very tired one day in the forest, and he enters the hermitage of Shamik Rishi. And Shamik Rishi is in trance, right? And when the king enters, obviously the king has entered, he has got a position. When people have got a position, we are supposed to respect them. And Shamik Rishi was in a trance, so he did not get up to offer him water or a seat or anything or sweet words. He did not do that, right? And we know the subsequent history, right? Parikshit Maharaj throws a snake around his neck. Then his son sees that in the samadhi that this is going on there. And the son curses Parikshit Maharaj. And then from there begins the downfall of the Brahmanas. So Shamik Rishi did not act. He did not do anything. But even by the process of not doing anything can have a reaction down the line, right? We know the story of Uttanpad and Dhruv Maharaj. Dhruv Maharaj wanted to climb on the lap of his father, and his father and his stepmother rebuked him and said, no, 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 you can't do that. If you want to get, you want to climb on the lap of the king, then you have to be born from my womb. And the king, because he was so henpecked, he just kept quiet, right? So that is not the right thing to do, okay? So he suffered subsequently later on for that. And then we also see that, forget about the Shastras, don't forget about the Shastras, but, we should always remember the Shastras. But to take an example from here, from this, from our world, if you don't act when you were supposed to act, then it is considered to be an offense. For example, paparazzi. You know what is paparazzi? The photographers who rush after the celebrities to catch a picture, right? And now, so there is a car chase happening. The person is running away. The celebrity is trying to hide from the camera, and the cameramen are following. And then there is a car crash. And the celebrity is about to die, is flung out of the car, lying on the road. And the paparazzi go and they start taking the pictures instead of dialing 911, right? So when it is your duty to do something, if you don't do your duty, then you will be punishable. It's a culpable offense. You can be punished for not doing your duty. Negligence. If you drive carelessly, which is you're negligent, which means that you were not careful. So not careful means I was not doing anything. I was not being careful, right? So when you do such things, then still you are punished by that. So it's not just that the Shastras are telling you. Shastras are telling you these things in the nice form of a story, but we have to remember, right? In the prayers of Queen Kunti, when Queen Kunti is talking about all the disasters that she went through in her life, right? So he's talking about Asat Sabhaya Vanvachikritchatha. So she's talking about that we were Asat Sabha. Asat means, not Sajjan, not good. We were there in the assembly in ungentlemanly assembly, Asat Sabhaya. Right? Vanvas, we had to go to Vanvas. So she's recounting all those calamities that went on her. And Asat means ungentlemanly assembly. So what is that ungentlemanly assembly? What is she referring to? She's referring to that assembly where Draupadi's sari was being pulled. Chirhanan was happening, and she was begging of all the elders there, and nobody moved. Nobody said Kripacharya, Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitama, nobody said anything like that. And what happened? They got labeled as ungentlemanly people. So not acting also, you have to remember, and Arjuna doesn't know that. We have to remember non-activity also can lead to karmic reaction if you were supposed to act, right? And it happens a lot in organizations also, where a junior comes and complains to you about something, right? And you are a manager or director or VP, and somebody comes and says somebody's harassing me, and you just listen and you laugh it off and you don't take any action, then you are punishable because you were in that position, right? Or like a police wala is there, and police wala is seeing some people are looting somebody else, and They're not saying anything, it's negligence of duty. So what is Arjuna's duty? He's a Kshatriya. His duty is to fight. At that level, at the mature level, his duty is to fight, right? He has got other duties as well. So we have to remember that this is what Arjuna is thinking. But what Krishna is saying, and let's go back and look at what Krishna is saying over here. And Krishna is saying, let's see, next stop here. Na karmanam anarambhan nashkarmyam purushosnute nacha sannyasana siddhim samadhi gacchati. So he's saying that not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, period. It's a very strong thing he has said. Oh my goodness. So I can't even sit back and relax and not do anything. You have to do your duty, right? So here is where he's saying that you have to do your duty. And as we continue and go through the chapters in Bhagavad Gita, we will understand what is our duty, right? Nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Prabhupada quotes this example of his disciples had gone and met a sannyasi. He was a very famous sannyasi, and his lecture Prabhupada says, I don't want to take his name. Obviously, he was a famous sannyasi at that time in New York. And Prabhupada's disciples went to meet the sannyasi, and they found the sannyasi was smoking. So, what kind of a sannyasi are you? Okay? So he says that, don't take sannyas unless and until you are ready for it. And what makes you ready for sannyas? Either you have, done very strong, led a very strong brahmachari life. And at the end of the brahmachari life, you realize that I have perfect control of my senses. I don't need to enter into the grihastha ashram, and they can go and proceed to sannyas and become sannyasis. But if you find that there is a little taste to enjoy this material world, it's highly recommended that you get into grihastha ashram, and you will be purified of all that happens in the grihastha ashram. That purification will happen in the, and then the vanaprastha, they prepare you. So these two ashrams, they prepare you to go into the sannyas thing, right? And so don't unnecessarily, renounce things. Prapanchikateya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mokshubhi parityago vairagyam falgu kathyate. So what it says is that, if a person looks at the material things and unnecessarily discards them, thinking that, they are useless, then it's a useless kind of renunciation that you're doing, because you can use the material energy, use the material world in the service of the Lord, right? We have to remember that thing in mind. So this is what Krishna is going to lead him. Krishna is going to lead him slowly to that part, right? And sannyasa, the sannyas that Krishna will ask him to do, right, is a very different kind of a sannyas. And Krishna is going to tell him of a new terminology, and that is karma sannyas. And which is amazing, right? Sannyas means not doing anything. I'm not working, right? I'm not living with a family. I'm not cooking. I've taken sannyas from everything. That's what we understand sannyas to be. But Krishna is going to tell him a new concept called karma sannyas, where you are doing the karma, but you have taken sannyas from the actions, from the results of the karma, right? And you do everything for sake of Krishna. And a perfect example, can you give me a perfect example of a karma sannyasi who took sannyas to serve Krishna? Who was a true karma sannyasi? There you go. That was an easy one, isn't it? Yes, very right. It was Srila Prabhupada. And so Srila Prabhupada had a wife. Srila Prabhupada had sons, had family and things like that. But then he took sannyas because he wanted to serve Krishna and follow the orders of his spiritual master, which said that you go and spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. And in that process, he did everything which a sannyasi, quote unquote, is not supposed to do. He went overseas, right? Which is something that sannyasis don't do. Then he lived with the Malechas in Lower Bavaria in New York. So he did everything possible. Why was he doing it? He was doing it in the service of Krishna. That part, Arjun has not understood, and Krishna is slowly telling him that, hey, buddy, if you're thinking that you're not going to work, that's not going to lead you to self-realization. And if you think I'm going to renounce everything, right? Say it is like, I won't fight this war, and I won't fight any of the wars, right? So this war, sannyas from wars, completely take sannyas from fighting the wars. So I won't do any of that. He's saying neither of them is good for you, like that. Okay. So I'll stop here and open it up for questions, reflections, anything that you want to discuss. And I'm going to open up the lines for you so that you can mute yourself. And there we go. You can raise your hands also. I'm watching your hands. And today is Thursday. We have a hard stop at 8. Okay, so I see Virava Bhav has raised her hand and Sukumal Mate has also raised her hand. Yeah, Sukumal Radhe Mataji, if you can press on your keyboard, then I'll be able to see it clearly. Yeah, sometimes I miss your hand in the light. Yeah, okay, so Virava Bhav, okay, I've got so many hands there. All right, so we'll take them in that order. Virava Bhav, Sukumal Radhe, and Sutapa Mataji and Vashana Mataji. Okay, go ahead, Virava Bhav.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, my question was, you said how without acting there were reactions. So I was wondering, how do you know the line between not acting and tolerating?
Yeah. And so here what we are talking about, not acting when you were supposed to act. Like a policeman is supposed to run and catch a thief who is, robbing a woman. And if the police wala doesn't do because he's sitting in the shade and he says, that's fine, right? Or doesn't do anything till you lodge a FIR. So we are talking about those things, right? And then it's not about tolerating. The policeman is not tolerating anything. There's nothing for him to tolerate. He's just not doing his duty. So here in this, we are talking in this context. And tolerating and all that is a totally different thing. Toleration, all we're talking about reacting to provocations coming to us from outside, right? Matasprashastu konteya shitoshno sukha dukkadha agam apinyo nityas tam titiksha bharata. Your first attempt should always be to tolerate. First attempt. And if you think that it is happening again and again, and that you're tolerating is giving a wrong message to the person, to your torturer, right? Then we have this famous story of the snake who had become Narad Muni's disciple, and Narad said, well, now you have to give up the snakely ways, right? So the poor snake goes and sits in a cave and he's chanting the names of Hari. And the village boys, they see him and they say, oh, snake, snake, snake. And the snake just sits there not doing anything. So the children are smart. So they start taking pebbles and they're throwing at the snake. And in no time, his whole body was bruised, right? And then the next day when Narad Muni stops, he's looking for his disciple and he says, okay, he's inside. And he's horrified seeing such a blood-laden disciple. He says, what happened? Like, how could the kids do this to you? And when he came to know, how could they do it to you? She said, well, you know what? She said, didn't you know? How could they do it? They know that you stink. And he said, but you had told me not to do any of the snakely ways, so I did not, bite them. And Narad Muni said that, okay, I told you, don't bite, but there's nothing that says that you just raise your hood and scare them away. So sometimes you have to, depending on the situation, you might have to do that, right? And always consult, move away from that situation where somebody is provoking you, and then consult and then come back and take the necessary action. If you take any action without consulting, then you can only do a postmortem after that, right? And might not be the best thing to do at that time.
Okay, Mataji, thank you.
You're welcome. Sukumal Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Shraddha Mataji, I wanted to know the verse that you were quoting about the banyan tree, the roots.
Urdha Mula Madashakam 15.1, 15.1, 15.2, 3.
Yeah, what I thought.
Just the beginning one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Urdha Mula
Madashakam. Sutapa Mataji.
Krishna Mataji, Nanamar Pranam. I got my answer. I was about to ask the same thing the Virobhava Mataji asked.
Okay, very
I
good.
was also confused that whether and then some kind of position we are in, and if we don't do any action, if we don't react, that is also considered to be inaction or what? That is
Yes.
the question.
Okay.
Thing.
Yeah, yeah. And then who else is there? Varshana Mataji, you had a hand raised, you lowered it, or was it all the same question? You are speaking on mute, by the way.
I got my answer, Mataji. Yeah, but Mataji, one thing, sometimes when you react to the day-to-day life, you see with friends or with in the family, when you react, Mataji, sometimes I personally feel it is better to be quiet all the time. But like you said that story of the snake when Narad told him, sometimes you have to show your hood that yes, you also exist. But that showing your existence becomes a problem, Mataji.
And how does it become a problem?
I feel to remain quiet is a good alternative.
Then do it according to time and place and circumstance. Different people will react, right? If somebody is living with a personality which is an alpha personality, no matter how much of the hood you show, then nothing happens to the alpha personality. So you have to tolerate and adjust, right? Or move away into another room, like that. But tolerance is a big virtue. That's why when Krishna is describing the qualities of a devotee in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, right? He's tolerant. Yasman no dujite loko, loka no dujite jayaha. So where is that tolerance and what is that keeping quiet? So he's not talking about, see, there are different levels of provocation or being provoked. One is that somebody said something to me and I got angry and I reacted. That's the worst thing, right? Then again, somebody said something, I became angry and I suppressed the anger. Okay, no further damage, at least at that time. And the third thing is somebody says something to me and the anger itself doesn't arise. So you see, that's the third. So when the anger itself is not arising, nothing is going to happen to you. So that is a very high level. It's a very high level that, nothing but Yasman, that's what it's a Yasman no dujite loko, loka no dujite jaya, 12.15, Sukuma Radhe Mataji, Bhagavad Gita. So the 12.15, it'll say that that you don't get agitated, you don't agitate others. That is fine, easy to do, but also you don't get agitated by others. So when somebody else is agitating you, remember, this is a verse that everybody should memorize, 12.15. Yasman no jidit, don't let others agitate you. Right? No matter what they say, no matter what garbage they write to you, no matter what garbage they speak to you, no matter what garbage they write about you on the internet or whatever they do, WhatsApp, text messages, emails, phone calls, whatever they do, right? You don't allow them to define your day. You start looking at them objectively. This is a jiva's soul behaving in this obnoxious manner. There's something wrong there. Oh, Krishna, please do something. Like that, right? The same situation, you can react in different ways.
Yes, Mataji, there was a man who, this is a true story. There was a man who, there is one ashrama where people go and you see they decide that that time has come and they go there in Kashi. So they die there. And one person, Mataji, the best example which is remembered every time, that he said that it is very important to, you see, forgive others if you have any grudges in your mind before death. And that person says, the owner of that ashrama, that please call my brother, youngest brother, I want to talk to him. And he tells him, he comes and he says, whatever I did or you did, whoever was wrong, it does not matter. But I want to say sorry to you before death. And Mataji, on the 16th day, he passed away after saying sorry to his brother. So this is, Mataji, at times it is very important to, you see, to let go the thing, let go, let it be. If somebody has said, it's okay, let it be, and be free in your mind when you are going. So I really liked this story, and um, try to apply in my day-to-day life also.
Exactly. And don't wait till you are going to Kashi to do that. Because the longer you keep the resentment in your heart,
Yes.
you are living with that bottled up in you. So be, as Vaisheshika Prabhu says, be quick to forgive. The quicker
Yes,
you forgive,
that
the
is
better
right.
it is for your peace of mind, because the other person does not even know what's going on in your mind. The other person after the obnoxious behavior is living a nice life. We are the one who are suffering by keeping that bottle up inside us, and there is seething anger, resentment, everything, and it is causing all kinds of things to our body and our subtle and gross body. Nothing is happening to the offender, so to speak.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Right? And
Yes,
when you have this
very
kind of
important.
anger is the biggest detriment to devotional service.
No anger, Mataji. No anger.
So it is the biggest detriment. So you should never have anger. All your devotional service gets burnt away. Your devotional credits, they get dissolved. Virava bhav for.
Mataji, there are some things that might have happened to you in the past, right? And you can't, even though you try, you can't let it go. Like, it's really major thing that's happened to you. So what do you do about situations like that? Like, you understand that whatever happened they were an instrument of your karma, but it's really it's not easy to also forgive them for the actions that they did, so how do you overcome that?
Good question. So you are philosophically, you have understood, right? There are two ways to understand it. One is to understand that it's my karma, it's coming back. So I have done something similar to someone in my previous birth, and now I am facing the same music, right? It's coming back. My karmic reactions are coming back at me. Or second is that, what if they're doing it for the first time? What if I never did? I can't even imagine I could have done something so obnoxious in my previous birth, right? Then just read 5th canto, chapter number 26. There is a definition of all the hellish planets. And when you know the hellish planets that people go and what the kind of sufferings that they're going to get that. So even if they get whoever did something bad to us, even if they get scot-free because the justice system here is not right. Remember, the justice system of this material world, the justice system of Yamraj, or justice system of Krishna, is very different. Nobody goes scot-free. Nobody goes scot-free. And I brought that verse 4.17 from the Bhagavad Gita, where it says, it is very difficult to understand what is karma, akarma, and it's very difficult to understand the intricacies of karma as to why something is happening to me. The good thing, the one good way to think about when something bad is happening, that you cannot stop living in the past, because you cannot change it. Stop living in the future, because you don't know what that future is. That is why all yogis tell you, live in the present, because present is a gift from God. And the only thing that you can change is your present. So whatever bad somebody did to us 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever the bad that they did, by constantly remembering that, we are allowing them to spoil our present also. But instead, the day you say that I have forgiven them. And when Nelson Mandela was coming out of the prison, and we all know that Nelson Mandela was tortured, right? At such a ripe age, he was tortured in the prison, right? And he writes, that as he was coming out of that prison, right, he looked back and then he said, I am going to forgive all of them. And that brought immediate peace to his heart. So whether they are in the wrong and they will suffer consequently, or I have done something and now they did it, whatever it is, you just say, I have forgiven them, because there's no other way to go to that. Another option is that go there and find out the culprits and go to the court and this and that. And remember, the Lord will take care. The Lord will take care of everything. There's no justice comes there. Bhagwan ki raj mein der hai, andher nahi. There could be delay, but there is no. It's not complete ignorance there. People will get the karmas. They'll get the reactions. Okay, last 4 minutes, Sadhana Mataji's call, because I have a book distribution call. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, actually, from the suffering we have and those experiences, if we reflect deeply, we've probably got nearer to Krishna, because very often that pain and stuff is what created our need to find something better. And so this is kind of I think, pretty experience. Anything that bad. I remember having a really racist boss one time and leaving Indiana to come to California. At the time, it was like a big thing with 2 children and moving. But honestly, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, right? Yeah. And a better environment. So yeah.
Thank you for bringing that.
I find I'm always thankful for some of the bad stuff.
Yeah. That is very true. That's very true. Yeah. Look for the silver lining in the dark cloud. There's always a silver lining. Yeah. It's difficult to understand.
Because Krishna is looking after us, so he knew the better answer for us anyway.
Yeah.
So in that way, that was some action on his, and our karma plus some, I don't know, that was how I've been thinking about bad things anyway. So I just wanted to share that. So.
Exactly. And hindsight is 20/20. When you look back, you're able to connect all the dots, but you're not able to connect them, in the future. You can't connect the dots in the future. You can look back and connect all the dots easily like that. Yeah. So if you keep your resentment, then only you suffer. And you make others around you suffer, maybe because of, you're resenting, the anger is there, mood is bad, or whatever it is, right? So you lose that opportunity. Just forgive and move on like that. Go ahead, Aruni Mataji, 2 more minutes.
Yeah, I just want to say, that's true if you have that silver lining. And this is not to be negative, but then there are people who don't have that, where you have a bad situation and then there are more bad situations, and then people just keep having more, and it could be their bad karma. I mean, obviously it's their bad karma, and then they just have more and more bad events and situations cropping up in their lives, and then they just die that way. So or even if they don't have more and more negative events, it just gets the negative events might stop, and then things are just like flatlined, and they don't necessarily have a better situation, and maybe that is their karma. But what happens is that they are kind of they dry up, they're saturated, they are there's no way for them to they're all worn out, by all the negative situations. So that happens too, but that's not.
So I got the point that you're making. So I'll just use the 1 minute to respond to that. And that is that we have to think about the continuum. So when we say that they died and never happened and nothing happened to them, so that is where we're not able to connect the dots. Why? Because we cannot connect the dots in the future. We do not know what the life experiences that they had now, right? In this life, after death, all that is recorded in the subtle body, right? It's going to go there in the next life. And whatever good has come, whatever the silver lining might show in the next life. So, and that is why this philosophy of, our thinking that the soul goes and there is transmigration, there's reincarnation or rebirth, that explains a lot of things, which are otherwise very difficult to explain. Why is a child born blind? What sins did he do to be born blind like that? So, yeah. So the best thing that we have to do is, as Prabhupada says, make the best use of a bad bargain. And so whenever some bad thing is constantly happening again and again, over and over again, then just say, my karmic reactions are being nullified. Karm kat gaye. it was in the backlog got cleared like that, right? There's no other way, no other way, no other way. Or chant. And the good thing is that you will not dry away. You will not dry away in this life if you seriously take to Krishna consciousness and be aware and serve the devotees, be respectful to them. And all the Vaishnavas have got such big powers to bless us that, that's why when some sannyasi comes, everybody runs after them. Why? Because they are exalted Vaishnavas. They run. What they want is lesha matra, a little bit of their mercy, lift of the mercy, so that mercy particles will help us go in a devotional service. And remember, as a good note today, is that karmani nirdhati kintu cha bhakti bhajam, that when you do bhakti, and this is what Krishna is going to tell Arjuna, that you go understand bhuti yoga to be the right thing, and that is you connect everything that you do with Krishna, and that will remove whatever is there, and whatever is there in the future for us also, only that will remove all of it. So Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, then with pranams. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you so much.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.